So today I'm going to be reviewing the book Good to Great: Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't by Jim Collins. Basically, what this book is all about is what takes certain companies from good to great and how they're able to sustain that for a long period of time. Personally, I really enjoyed this book because a lot of its ideas challenge what I've been learning specifically in business school and what I've been learning in school as a whole and in society. So, this book is really data driven, which I also enjoy because I'm somebody who really likes things that are backed by data and not just by opinions. So basically, how this book went about is that Jim Collins and his team of 21 researchers decided to go into in-depth study for 5 years to figure out what is the key deciding factors that make companies to make this really great turnaround. So they originally analyzed 1,435 companies to identify what were the components that allowed them to make that specific jump. Out of that whole pool, they only had 11 companies that met each one of the really strict criteria. So a couple of those criteria were that they had at least 15 years of below or at average market performance. And then after that, after the turning point, they had 15 years of sustained growth above the market performance. So let's get into some of those points that made these companies take that leap. So one of the first points that this book talks about is the concept of level 5 leadership. So basically, they describe leadership as levels 1 through 5. So the bottom of the pyramid would be level 1, and then moving upwards to level 5. So what makes a level 5 leader would be someone who is going to be humble yet determined. So in today's society, probably someone who'd be considered to be a level 4 leader would be a character along the likes of Elon Musk. So it's someone who took a company from not very much to something that has had a lot of sustained growth. However, it's someone who's more focused on their ego and their own personal success in comparison to the success of the company. The next component is called first who, then what. So this portion of the book decides to go into getting the right people into the company before you even go thinking about anything strategy or vision related. So in the book, a lot of the time they use the analogy of getting the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus before you can drive the bus. So having a strong team is going to naturally lead you in the right direction. So I enjoyed this quote on page 56 where it's talking about practical discipline number 2. When you know you need to make a people change, act. The moment you feel the need to tightly manage someone, you've made a hiring mistake. The best people don't need to be managed. Guided, taught, led, yes, but not tightly managed. We've all experienced or observed the following scenario. We have a wrong person on the bus and we know it. And then it goes in to say, letting the wrong people hang around is unfair to all the right people, as they inevitably find themselves compensating for the inadequacies of the wrong people. Worse, it can drive away the best people. Strong performers are intrinsically motivated by performance, and when they see their efforts impeded by carrying extra weight, they eventually become frustrated. I really resonated with this quote because personally I have seen this happen in the workplace, as it is those who end up carrying that extra workload because the maybe management thinks that they can carry an extra load. I've seen it happen with a manager, I've seen it happen with myself, and it really brings down the morale of the group because if someone isn't carrying their weight or if somebody doesn't care, it just destroys the company from the inside out. The next part to go into is to confront the brutal facts, and it goes into something called the Stockdale paradox. So, in confronting the brutal facts, the book talks about needing to continually refine the path to greatness while facing the brutal facts of reality. So basically, if a company does research and they see, hey, maybe this one component of our business isn't going like we thought it would, like these numbers don't look great. Instead of just brushing those bad details under the rug, you need to inspect them and look at them and refine your business and not just ignore those facts that maybe don't align with what you thought you were going to see. In terms of the Stockdale paradox, it was inspired by Admiral Jim Stockdale in his survival as a prisoner of war. And it goes into, they decided to interview him as he was a prisoner of war for quite some time. And they asked, who didn't make it out? And he had an answer immediately. He goes, "Oh, that's easy," he said. "The optimists." "The optimists? I don't understand," I said, now completely confused, given what he'd said 100 meters earlier. "The optimists? Oh, they were the ones who said, 'We're going to be out by Christmas.' And Christmas would come, and Christmas would go. Then they'd say, 'We're going to be out by Easter,' and Easter would come, and Easter would go. And then Thanksgiving, and then it would be Christmas again. And they died of a broken heart." And I personally really liked the Stockdale paradox. As someone who has been accused of being really negative, it's something that I've always met people with, is that, hey, I'm a realist. Because personally, and obviously this transitions to business as well, is that if you keep over optimizing, like you're being too optimistic about your business and, hey, we're going to meet these quotas because, I don't know, I just think we can make them. And if you don't meet those quotas, you're going to be met with that disappointment. And that disappointment after disappointment, those people who are overly optimistic about things, it's also going to negatively affect the business. The next thing it goes into is the hedgehog concept. So basically, this portion is just focusing on simplicity. And they have the 3 key circles, which are you need to focus on what you're deeply passionate about, what you can be the best in the world at, and what drives your economic engine. So one of the key points the book talks about is that if you can't be the best at what you're doing, even if you've been doing it for a long time, then that can't be your core business and your base of your hedgehog concept. So the hedgehog concept is just focusing on one thing. You're not going to be focusing on a whole bunch of different things at once. You just need to have that simplicity and strategy rather than chasing every opportunity that comes to you. And I thought that was really interesting because it would be really hard to be able to turn down an opportunity that sounds really great, but if it doesn't align with where you're trying to go in life or where you're trying to take your business, it is important that you need to be able to decline that so you're going to be available to accept the right opportunity when it comes for you. Then it goes into the culture of discipline, which is disciplined people, disciplined thought, and disciplined action. So this isn't about micromanaging people, but just maintaining that focus and consistency across your whole entire business so that it's that entire culture of discipline, which I thought was really interesting because it's evident in businesses where you don't have that culture of discipline and you just have that one tyrannical, like the hierarchical leader that is going to be implementing that discipline, and that creates fear, and fear is not going to be the best motivator when it comes to people. Then finally, it goes into the technology accelerators. So in order to become a business to go from good to great, you need to use technology as an accelerator, but not as the main focus point of your growth. So when this book was written back in 2001 and prior, this was when the internet was becoming a big thing, and it was the internet boom and the internet bubble, and that's what they are talking about in this novel. However, this ties into today's society with AI and how AI is becoming increasingly more prevalent, and businesses are starting to implement that into their practices. So I thought this was kind of interesting to tie into the fact that you can't just rely on the internet or AI to be able to drive your business. But if you find the right portion of AI or the right portion of the internet, like they did here, then you'll be able to make your business even better. Then finally, it goes into something called the flywheel effect. So in terms of the diagram that the book goes over in this entire book, they describe the flywheel as this circle that goes around all the concepts that I've been talking about here today. So for this flywheel, it's something that's going to happen gradually. So you need to be able to be working on all of these concepts continually, just giving this flywheel a little push each time. And eventually, all those little pushes are going to be building up. And then you get that momentum from the flywheel, which I thought was kind of interesting as they described it in the book, is that a lot of these companies, and especially with mainstream media today, these companies are portrayed as, oh, they were nothing and then they were something. They were all this big. It seemed to have happened overnight. But where in reality, these transitions took anywhere from 2 to 5 years to be able to implement this change that was slowly growing with this flywheel. So, all in all, would I recommend Good to Great? Absolutely. I loved it. As someone who loves data, as someone who likes business and growth, you can definitely apply this to your own life in a lot of ways too. So it's not just a business book, but yeah, that is pretty much it.